Hey everybody, welcome back to Big Buck Shuck. I'm Randy Shuck, and on today's show I wanted to walk you through the 6x6 blind build that I've been working on since about January of this year, 2022. I wanted to show you what I did to build it and how I went about doing what I did. Maybe give you guys some ideas here quickly to wrap up your blinds before season starts. I know we're about a month away right now, so it's getting close, and so yeah, check it out.
Hey everybody, here's the blind that I've been building for my buddy Will for his property that we hunt on. I don't have a name for it. I wanted to name it, but I couldn't think of anything clever, like the Mean Green Swamp Donkey Slaying Machine or something. I don't know, but anyway. Just wanted to give you guys a tour of it and kind of go through the process of what I've been doing to build it. Start on the inside. So in here I built the walls. I started this project in January of this year, 2022, and it's taken me quite a bit. We moved, we bought a new house, so it kind of slowed me down a bit, but it's been a pretty good project. I started off, built the base. This is a budget project, just using stuff that I had around the house mostly. I've got probably a total of $600 into this build. Mostly I had to buy some studs, the metal siding, screws, and little odds and ends like the door latches and handles and such stuff like that. But it's been mostly, the windows as well. Those were a little pricey. But it's been mostly stuff that I've had around the house, trying to keep this as budget friendly as possible, use what I've got. So we'll start off up here. Well, I guess we'll start back down here. I built the base. I had 2x4s. I broke down a bunch of crates from work. I built the base out of that. I put 3/4 inch plywood, like it's about a sheet and a half or so of 3/4 inch treated OSB for the floor underneath the carpet here. Started off with that, went to the walls. I built these walls out of 2x4 studs, just regular. Most of them came from the crates at work that I broke down and took home with me. Built those and stood those up on the base. I toe-nailed screws. You can't see from the insulation, but there's screws in down the sides and then in every joist across the front and back, screwed down to the base. And then from there, I decided to go with 10-inch windows, a 10-inch window height from top to bottom. This blind's going to be used for crossbows and guns mostly. I hunt out of my saddle. My buddy has tree stands, so this will be a gun blind or inclement weather bow blind. So I went with 10-inch windows. I figured I wanted to keep as much light out as possible to keep it dark in here. When you're sitting in here, it's harder for them to see you. So I've got the walls stood up, and then I started on the roof. I made these brackets out of, I think that's 1/8 inch by 1 or 1 1/4 angle iron. I didn't want to spend the money on like joist hangers or angle brackets that you can buy at the store, so I built these out of that angle. And what I did for these ones, I just drilled a hole in the middle, and then I used 3/8 all thread to go all the way through the rafter here to bolt them all together securely. And then back here, I just notched it down so that it would just come to the top of this center board here, this center joist here in the middle. And then I rotted it through with all thread all the way through, so one piece of all thread goes through both sides and holds it there. So it's probably overkill, but it's what I had, and it was cheap and pretty simple to do. I notched it out with a grinder and a cutoff wheel on a grinder. Not sanded them, but knocked the burr off with a Tiger Paw abrasive wheel on the grinder. So I got those all up. I did angle brackets here. You can get these at like Home Depot, Menards, Lowe's, or a plumbing supply house. You can pretty much get them anywhere. I did 1/2 inch all thread through the bottom of the angle bracket into the wall, top of the walls on both sides. And then I've got 3/8 all thread all the way through here. This middle piece is screwed to this center piece of the roof, and then I sandwiched it between these two pieces of 2x4 on the sides, and I got an angle bracket here just to give it some more support. Like I said, way overkill, but what I've got, or it's what I had to use to work with, so it turned out pretty good. I think you could probably pick this thing right in the middle right here up top, and it would probably pick the whole thing up no problem. So shouldn't have an issue ever with anything, wind, snow, anything. So from there, I've got all this. This is 2.5 inch Dow foam from, I got it from work. They were throwing it in the dumpster, the bricklayers. So I went dumpster diving and got most of what I needed to do this, almost the whole blind. Got the whole bottom done, and then I've got these 3 sections here, and the top of the door, and these 2 sections. These pieces of insulation here are, I believe they're 1 inch or 1.5 inches thick. Just the blue stuff, the blue Dow foam. And that was actually given to me by a neighbor at our old place. I was building this out in the driveway, and he stopped by and said, "Hey, I got some foam, do you want it?" And I said, "Hell yes." So went and got that. I was able to finish the rest of it up here with that. So it's really insulated well. It's hotter than hell in here right now, so it should be pretty good this fall when it's getting colder. Shouldn't have a problem with a single Mr. Buddy, keeping it, decent in here. So from there, I built this little table, little fold-up table. Get the legs stood up here for you. There we go. So that folds up, so you can set your pop, binoculars, grunt calls, food, whatever you need up there while you're in here. And then I've got these legs down to just a couple pieces of scrap wood screwed to the studs here to keep the legs up. And it's pretty simple. I ripped a couple of 2x4s in half, so they're 2x2. It's a 2x2 frame. Built the frame, had a piece of 1/2 inch ply or OSB that I used on the top. I just used regular little inch and a quarter drywall screws to put it together. And then for the legs, I got a piece of 3/8 all thread that goes all the way through here. I've got nuts on each side, washers, and then a washer in the middle. It's kind of hard to see there, but there's a washer in the middle just to keep the wood from rubbing on each other, to keep it more quiet. These are somewhat loose. You can actually spin these nuts, but I peen the threads out here. Really can't see it that well, but I peen the threads so that the nut won't slide out, it won't come off. It stops right there because the threads are damaged. And that was just basically to keep it loose enough that the legs, all you have to do is lift up slightly and both legs pop out like that, and you can let it down. And I've just got hinges, just 2 simple little cheap hinges screwed to the back here and here. I had to put 2 pieces of wood in between the studs to accommodate that. Let's see, back here I built this little coat rack / gear hooks. This just the same angle that I used up there on the brackets I used for this. I stitch welded the back of it in the middle. It's just wide enough so you can put a pop can there, or a beer can if you prefer. And made these hooks out of 3/8 all thread. I heated them up with a torch here and bent them over into hooks, and then just welded them on the bottom here of the angle. Let's see, I finished this yesterday. I drilled this is 2-inch PVC I had left over. I found it up in the garage attic here when we moved. I drilled a 2 1/8 inch hole with a hole saw down through the floor. I came off for a piece of unistrut. I measured over to get my center, mounted a piece of unistrut on the wall there, and used one of these pipe clamps. Again, you can get these at any hardware, as you can unistrut. This was actually scrap from in the dumpster at work, so I took it home. I can use that. Unistrut comes in handy a lot. So I've got that clamp there. And then I was going to get a 2x4 reducing coupling, PVC reducing coupling, but they were like 6 something, and I'm all about saving a couple pennies when I can, so I opted for a classic funnel. It's like $3, and I glued it just like you would any other fitting with PVC glue and primer and glue, and screwed it back here. I think it's going to work perfect for taking a leak when the time comes. And then I'll show you the rest of the piping once we get it up in the air and get it set. I'm going to run it down the legs. I'll show you that when the time comes. And then for the windows, pretty simple. Again, trying to keep this budget friendly, so I looked at the Deer View windows. They look really awesome. And if I build a blind one day, then maybe I will use something like that. But this setup right here, I actually got the idea from my grandfather. The box blind he built, probably 20 years ago now. And all it is 1/8 inch plexiglass, polycarbonate they call it at the store. I needed, I don't even remember what I needed, but it was about $150 for the amount that I needed for this blind. So that part was pretty pricey. I got these hinges, just simple 2-hole hinges. I got those, I think they were $3 a pack. It came with screws. So I cut these down to the right lengths for the windows, and they work pretty good. These are just pieces of 2x4. I marked out half inch on a 2x4. I did it, I think, 16 times. Yeah, 16 times. Cut 16 of these little guys, and it's just screwed into the stud here. So you just twist. Oh, let's do this one. Twist. Window opens. Come up here. Twist that down. It's open. Real simple, quiet, pretty effective. Like I said, if I wanted to spend more money, I could have. But this was all about what I had and what I had to work with, keeping it somewhat cheap on a budget. When I did build these, you have to pre-drill these holes. I tried one over here, this first one that I did on the door. I didn't think about it, just screwed the screw in and cracked right down into the window. So that's why I've got this ugly looking JB Weld on there because that's all I had to fix it. But it's solid now. And a couple of them did split too, and I just threw a little bit of JB Weld on them just to make sure they didn't keep going. This stuff's pretty finicky, and it's so thin that even pre-drilling, after I did this first one, I pre-drilled all the rest of these with I think it was an 1/8 inch, maybe a hair smaller drill bit. Even with that, some of them still split. You can see I've got some JB Weld on quite a few of these, but the deer won't care, so neither do I. And they work good. Keep the wind off you. And once I peel this plastic off, I'm leaving this protective plastic on there just until we get the blinds set, just to keep any scratches or bugs while we're hauling it down the road. Keep that off the actual windows, but they are very clear once you get them opened up. or take the plastic off. So that's the inside. I got this carpet from work at a hospital that I've been working at. They were throwing it in the dumpster, so I took a chunk of it. And all I did with this, I didn't trust staples because I didn't have any long enough ones like carpet staples or tack strip or anything like that. So I just used regular, like 1 or I think they're either 3/4 or 1 inch roofing nails. And I just went along roughly every 6-8 inches on this one side. And then as I went down the sides, I kicked it with my boots and tried to keep it as tight as possible while nailing it down. Just worked my way back towards the door, and it's pretty tight. It's laid in there pretty good. Shouldn't have any issues rolling an office chair or 2 around in here. That'll keep the noise down, and so that turned out pretty good. Here on the door, I just got a simple little latch. Just I'm not sure what they call these, but just a simple little latch. And let's go outside and I'll show you the outside. So out here, got a door handle, twist lock, latch so that we can put a padlock in there. Keep it locked up during the off season. The door, I had to cut these notches in the metal for these hinges, just because when I opened the door before, it was making a really loud screeching sound, and any deer hunter knows that's not good. So, but there's just 3 hinges on the door. That was pretty simple. Let me show you this here. So down here, I just added a couple of 45-degree 2x4s down here for keep the door from buckling. And all along the windows, there was some drip edge left over up in the attic again. That was left here, so I used that for the outside edges of the windows to keep water from going down into these ribs. I forgot to mention that on the inside, before I put all the insulation in, I did go around and pack. I had this rubber, it's like a rubber adhesive. I'm not sure. The roofers were using it. They were, again, throwing it away. And I can't show you now, but every one of those ribs is packed full of this sticky rubber roofing. It came in a roll. I'm not sure what it's even for, but I packed all of them with that. And then once I ran out of that, I finished by caulking all the ribs with roofing caulk, just to keep it sealed up, keep water out of here, keep as many bugs out of here as possible, and cold wind. So up top, I did every one of these on these outside walls, or I should say the front and back. I did caulked them shut, ran a bead of caulk all the way down the sides, keep it sealed up. Did the drip edge. A couple spots that I'm mostly not proud of is like this panel here, these 2 panels. I only had 2 sections of metal, so I had to use 2 smaller pieces, so I overlapped it, but then I caulked. And when I was doing that part, it was cold. It was 15-20 degrees, so I was not really caring at that point. And so I went around, caulked all the open holes that I could find around this whole thing. The roof, I did the roof I had 1/2-inch ply OSB, and you can see that white up there where it's not painted. That's actually rubber roofing. There's a couple of pieces of that. So I laid the OSB down, then I laid down the rubber roofing, stapled that down, went over that with roofing caulk, sealed all those edges where it overlapped, and then I used shingles that I bought at Menards. They have a clearance section out in the yard. They were two different bundles, two different colors, so I overlapped them. Or I'm sorry, I went every other shingle a different color. It turned out pretty good. So it should keep it nice and sealed. And then obviously pole barn screws. These are 1.5 inch pole barn screws that I use to secure the metal to the blind, to the frame. And probably the part that I'm most not proud of is the base here. These bases where I had to peel the metal up, because originally I was going to buy some elevator brackets. Well, after looking at them, I didn't know. I was like, man, do I really want to spend the... I think you can get a set of 4 of them for like $50 on Amazon, all the way up to 120 or 50 or whatever for different brands. But I was like, man, I think I can build these, and I think they'd be better than what they sell. So I decided to build them. But the problem with that was I had to peel these up to make room for the ones that I built. So it looks kind of shitty, but like I said, the deer aren't going to care. And honestly, this is the first big box blind that I've ever built, so next time I'll keep that in mind before I sheet the whole thing with metal. So that's pretty much the blind in a nutshell. So what I did was marked out my holes on my brackets, drilled them all the way through the base here on all 4 corners, so that the brackets could slide up in there and I could bolt the brackets to it. And I'll show you the brackets here. So here's the elevator brackets that I built. I found these are, I forget what size these are, 4 inch angle, 1/4 inch thick. It was scrap, found it in a scrap pile. And then that same angle that I used in the blind for the roof joists and the coat rack, I made back here. So what I did was I welded these together, these 2 pieces of angle on all of these, and then I welded a piece of angle on the back of it, or on one side, and that's tilted. It's tilted out and it's tilted laterally this way. So if you look at it, you can see there's an angle down like this, and then also back. So once this is up in the blind, or attached to the blind, and this is level this way as well as this way, this leg here where the 4x4 is going to slide up into is actually kicked out and out. It's kicked to the right and it's kicked out both ways. So, and I've got two of them built like this, and then the back two are built the opposite way for different corners. That's why I've got them numbered. So I went out, put these up on the blind, marked my holes out there, drilled them, and then basically these pieces all thread are gonna go through the stud's gonna sit in here on the base of the blind. And then I've got 3-inch 5/16 by 3-inch lag bolts that I'm gonna bolt to the 4x4s. I drilled all these holes all the way around to do that. So these should be very strong. I don't think I'll have a problem. You know, the ones you can buy in the store or online or in the stores, I think are like 1/8 inch plate steel, and obviously these are a lot heavier than that. So they should work pretty good. Shouldn't have any issues. So this didn't cost me anything. I mean, other than a few nuts and some all thread. So, and obviously the lag screws, I did have to buy those. But as far as building the brackets themselves, it didn't cost me anything. So if you've got a welder at home, this is definitely an option, a good one. Just save some money, give you something to do. It wasn't very hard. I think I kicked these out. I want to say I kicked them out 1/4 inch. So the angle this way and this way is, I believe, roughly 1/4 inch. You can kind of see here, that's about 1/4 inch on all of them. So those should work pretty good. I think it's going to be solid, stable. I'll show you the posts that I'm going to use. Be using these posts here. I actually got these from out back from the lean-to that I'm tearing down, and they were 10 footers. I cut them down to 8 because I figured 8 foot was plenty high enough for this blind. So the elevator brackets will go up, slide onto these. I'll lag bolt them in, and then once we get out there, pick the blind up with the tractor, I'll finish, we'll attach them to the blind over here, put the all thread through, put some cross bracing, 2x4 cross bracing, from 4x4 to 4x4, stiffen it up a bit on all 4 sides, and then we'll set it down. Before I painted this thing, it was all different colors. I got this steel, except for I think two 8-foot sheets of it. I got all this steel from the Menards clearance lot where I got the shingles. Same spot I got the shingles from, and it was all different colors. So there was some browns, there was green, there was white. I think there was even some gray or blue. I can't remember, it's been so long, but it was all different colors. My buddy's like, oh, just leave it, it'll be fine. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I gotta build it and take some pride in it. So I went to the store up here, Northwoods. They sell cheap paint, like cans of paint for like 3 for $5. So I went up there, all they had left was this baby shit green color. So I was like, well, we're gonna do it because it's a deal. So I did it. I painted the whole thing with that color, and I had like 3 cans of this darker green left over from a different project, and I'm like, man, I want to make it look somewhat decent, kind of blend in. Again, the deer really don't care, but I do. So I just started spraying trees, started doing the trunks, and then just limbs here and there, and it turned out pretty good. I mean, it looks like like trees, the shadow of trees maybe, or just off in the distance in the dark, or like sunset. I don't know, that's what it kind of reminds me of, but I think it'll blend in once it's up against a tree line of some sort. And really, like I said, all I did was just started at the bottom, started spraying the trunks. I made all the trunks all the way up, gave them some goofy angles on some of them, and then I just went back through and started doing limbs. And if you look at enough trees, you kind of get an idea for what limbs look like and how they bend and come off the trees on an angle and stuff. So anyway, cheap paint idea, doesn't have to be fancy, and you can do it. It took me about an hour to do this whole blind. So there you have it, guys. That's the blind. I wanted to add a few more things, but I figured if you had comments or questions, you guys let me know and I'll answer them as I can about it. If you have any questions about the build or how I did certain things, or how I came up with whatever it is that you want to know, so let me know about that. And we're gonna have a part 2 for this blind because I wanted to get this out before season, so that if you guys were finishing up or in the middle of a project, maybe I give you an idea that you didn't have before, that you could get it done before you go to put it out for the season. So there will be a part 2. We're going to be putting the blind out this coming weekend, Labor Day weekend. So my buddy Will and I will have some more content for you guys of it being set up and how we finish getting everything tied together and all that good stuff. So stay tuned, hit that like and subscribe button. You guys follow along and we'll keep giving you guys good deer hunting content. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.